Hi friends, welcome back with new amazing video from Top Movies Recap. Today I'm going to recap a 1986 war and drama film titled Platoon. Spoiler warning, watch out and take care. The film opens with Chris Taylor as a young American who has forsaken a privileged life at a university to enlist in the military, voluntarily serving in Vietnam. September 1967 is the year. When he arrives in Da Nang, South Vietnam, he finds dead American soldiers being brought into his plane in body bags. Taylor and the other recruits walk past a group of soldiers who laugh at the new guys as they board the plane, but it's the shell-shocked state of a departing soldier with the 1,000-yard stare that gets to Taylor. Bravo Company has been sent to Taylor and numerous additional replacements. The unit goes on patrol in the forest, contending with mud, thick plants, snakes, and ants. Taylor's excitement for the war wanes fast as a result of the arduous labor and living circumstances of patrolling, and he develops affection for the more experienced soldiers, despite their unwillingness to extend friendship to him. Another newcomer, Platoon Commander Lieutenant Wolf, meets with the platoon sergeants to discuss plans for a patrol later that night. Empathetic Sergeant Elias, harsh but tough Corps Staff Sergeant Barnes, cowardly, sycophantic lifer Sergeant Red O'Neill, and drug addict Sergeant Warren. Barnes and Elias debate whether or not to deploy the new recruits on an ambush patrol. O'Neill insists on sending the fresh troops instead of numerous men under his command who are nearing the end of their tours of duty. Barnes agrees, but only on the condition that O'Neill accompany him out. Taylor's sleeping unit was ambushed by North Vietnamese soldiers that night. Gardner, another new recruit, is murdered while Tex, another soldier, is injured. Taylor is blamed for the casualties despite having passed the watch job to Junior, a more experienced but frequently careless soldier who fell asleep. Taylor discovers a light wound to his neck immediately after the fighting and is sent to the field hospital for treatment. Taylor returns to his unit from the hospital a few days later and, thanks to a soldier named King, is accepted by the heads, a close-knit group led by Elias who socializes, dances, and uses drugs in a secluded bunker. Barnes leads the unit's more traditional members, who drink beer, play cards, and don't use opium, in another bunker next door. As the patrols progress, Taylor becomes a more experienced soldier, and he soon fades into the background. The battalion discovers what looks to be an abandoned bunker during one patrol on New Year's Day, January 1, 1968. Elias investigates a network of tunnels leading from the bunker. When Sandy and Sal, two members of the platoon, come across a booby trap linked to a box of documents, they are slain. Manny Washington, a soldier, goes missing shortly afterward. His dismembered body is discovered nearby, tied to a pole. The unit is furious at their comrade's tragic death and is told to report to a nearby South Vietnamese village. The troop arrives in the village and discovers a stash of food and weapons. The remaining soldiers go on a village exploration. Taylor finds a mute and mentally challenged teenage boy and his mother hiding in a hole beneath the floor in one of the houses. Taylor taunts and harasses the retarded youngster by firing his weapon at his feet, but he stops short of murdering him. Despite Sergeant O'Neill's orders to evacuate the hut, Bun takes command and beats the youngster to death with his revolver. Barnes loses patience when questioning the village leader and, despite the man's claims that they are assisting the Viet Cong, kills the man's wife. When Sergeant Elias comes on the scene and initiates a fistfight with Barnes, Barnes is about to murder the man's little daughter to force him to tell them where the enemy is. Lieutenant Wolf, who remained motionless during the wife's gunshot, eventually puts a stop to the struggle and conveys orders to burn the settlement to his superior officer. As the guys go, a gang of 4 soldiers, including Bunny and Junior, pull a young Vietnamese girl into the bushes intending to rape her. When Taylor sees them, he intervenes and stops them from raping the girl. His comrades mock him for interfering with their plans. When Elias returns to base, he informs Captain Harris of Barnes' conduct, but owing to a lack of manpower, he is unable to remove Barnes. If there is evidence that Barnes murdered an unarmed citizen, Harris threatens to court-martial him. Bunny advises fragging Elias to O'Neill and Bunny, who are worried about the potential of an investigation. There was a civil war in the battalion, a narrator Taylor says. One night, Taylor and Elias converse and Elias informs him that the U.S. is due for a military defeat, despite the fact that previous conflicts have been generally successful. He also admits to being disillusioned with America's Southeast Asian mission, saying that he once believed it was winnable but now realizes it isn't. The platoon is ambushed and pinned down by invisible enemy soldiers on their next patrol. In the ensuing conflict, Flash is killed, while Sergeant Warren and Private Lerner are severely injured. Lieutenant Wolf sends the erroneous artillery support coordinates, killing Fusheng, Morehouse, and Tubbs, and severely injuring Ace. While attempting to escape the artillery onslaught, Big Harold has his leg blasted off by a tripwired booby trap, Elias, Taylor, Ra, and Crawford are dispatched to intercept flanking enemy forces. Barnes assumes authority despite the fact that LT Wolf is the commanding officer. He instructs the remainder of the platoon to evacuate so that they can be airlifted out of the area, then returns to the bush to locate Elias' squad. Barnes locates Elias after dispatching Taylor, Ra, and Crawford. Barnes shoots 3 rounds into Elias' chest and leaves him for dead after the two stare at each other for a few moments. Barnes runs into Taylor and informs him that Elias has died and that his body has been found nearby. Taylor must return to the landing zone as Barnes directs. The men observe a seriously injured Elias emerge from the jungle after they take off, fleeing a huge group of NVA soldiers. He is killed after being shot several more times by the NVA, while American aircraft attempt in vain to provide cover overhead. Chris casts a long glance at Barnes' hardened face as they leave the location. Taylor tries to persuade his shrinking group of 6 heads to kill Barnes in revenge at the base, stating that the look on Barnes' face when he met him in the forest after shooting Elias told him the truth. While King agrees, Doc Gomez believes Barnes' destiny should be decided by military justice. Ra reminds Taylor of how much he liked Barnes when he first arrived, and that Barnes isn't supposed to die, emphasizing that Barnes had survived wounds that should have killed him on multiple previous occasions. The only thing that can kill Barnes is Barnes. Barnes suddenly comes heavily inebriated and holding a bottle of bourbon, having overheard Taylor threatening to kill him. He dares them to kill him as he enters the room. Although no one accepts the offer, Taylor confronts Barnes as he leaves. Barnes has the upper hand fast, pinning Taylor to the ground and holding a knife to his face. After slicing Taylor in the eye, Ra warns him not to do it, telling him he'll be court-martialed and imprisoned. The platoon is sent back to the ambush place a few days later to construct and maintain substantial defensive positions in case of an attack. Ra gets promoted to sergeant and is in charge of Elias' remaining unit. However, the platoon's defenses are badly degraded, leaving large holes. When LT Wolf just responds by saying that he no longer gives a fuck. The troops try to get ready for the impending conflict, knowing that the bulk of them would perish. As his term of service comes to a close just before dusk, King is permitted to return home. To avoid the approaching battle, O'Neill attempts to take advantage of Elias' R&R days. Everybody has to die someday, Red Barnes says when he asks for permission. Junior tries to get out of the fight by putting mosquito repellent on his feet and passing it off as trench foot, a ruse that Barnes picks up on immediately away. Bunny claims he has no remorse for the killings he has perpetrated, that he enjoys Vietnam, and that he is Audie Murphy, a well-known and decorated World War II warrior. Francis Corey Glover, one of the last few remaining heads, is assigned to the same foxhole as Taylor. That night, a large attack occurs and the American defensive perimeter is broken and the camp overrun by hundreds of attacking North Vietnamese troops. Taylor and Francis take on and cut down several attacking enemy troops until they both pause when they hear signal whistles from the unseen NVA sergeants ordering their men to cease fire. Taylor grabs Francis and they crawl out of the foxhole seconds before it is hit by an RPG after hearing a Vietnamese voice over a bullhorn and realizing that the NVA is ordering RPG up to the line to blow up the foxhole they are in. Taylor and Francis then attack and kill numerous enemy soldiers who have invaded their shattered foxhole, until Taylor loses his cool and charges into the chaos, shooting enemy soldier after enemy soldier. Meanwhile, the NVA assault on the base continues apace. A suicide bomber from the NVA blows up the command bunker. Many members of the platoon, including LT Wolf, Parker, Doc, Bunny, and Junior, are killed when their foxholes are overrun during the mass North Vietnamese army offensive. Only by hiding under a dead body does the cowardly O'Neill survive. Captain Harris, the desperate company commander, instructs the Air Force pilots to expend any remaining within his perimeter. Barnes and Taylor come face to face in the midst of the mayhem. The two are knocked unconscious by the last-ditch American napalm strike just as a deranged Barnes is preparing to beat Taylor with a shovel. The next morning, Taylor wakes up with a major gash to his lower abdomen, which was inflicted by Barnes striking him with the sharpened edge of the shovel the night before. Barnes, who was shot in both legs during the combat, is shortly discovered by Taylor. Taylor grabs an AK-47 weapon off a dead enemy soldier and points it at Barnes, who is prostrate on the ground. Barnes, on the other hand, is unconcerned and tells Taylor to call a medic. When Taylor refuses to obey, instead aiming his rifle, Barnes, now insane, challenges him to pull the trigger, shouting, "Do it." Barnes is killed when Taylor shoots him 3 times in the chest. Taylor then drops his weapon, falls, and is taken to the hospital for treatment. Taylor is shown about to pull the pin on a grenade he discovered, only to drop it as reinforcements arrive. Francis exits from his foxhole and, in order to be evacuated as a victim, stabs himself in the thigh with a bayonet. Other Americans locate O'Neill, and Harris assigns him command of the platoon. Taylor is told by Francis as he is placed aboard the chopper that they can return home because they have been injured twice. Hundreds of NVA dead are being put into mass graves at the bombed-out command station. Taylor weeps as he looks down at the wreckage, narrating that he will always be in Vietnam, with Barnes and Elias fighting for ownership of his soul, and that he and other soldiers must rebuild themselves and find goodness and meaning in their lives. We hope you enjoyed our video from today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to receive notifications of new and interesting videos.